तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्।
Dr. Oak, pleasure to have you here with us. You are our last but not the least, the awardee for the RSG Wisdom and Excellence Award. Your introduction is, I mean, I don't know, it's immense pleasure, of course, but I can go on and on with your introduction. And honestly, the entire of Maharashtra sort of doesn't need an introduction. Everyone knows you, but here's your formal introduction that I take immense pleasure in giving. You are a renowned pediatric surgeon with nearly 4 decades of experience, and highly honored in that field. Beyond that, also you have a rich experience in the health sector administration for 2 decades, and you've been professor of pediatric surgery 1999 onwards, dean at the TNMC, that is the Nair Hospital. From 2005 to 2008, you have been director with KEM, which is the most coveted hospitals in Mumbai. From 2008 to 2012, you have been vice chancellor with the D.Y. Patil University. From 2012 to 2016, you have been CEO at the Prince Ali Khan Hospital from 2016 to 2020. Now you are currently the director of the professional services, director of professional services at the Kaushalya Medical Foundation Trust Hospital. You are director of professional services at the Abhinam Hospital. You have endless publications, 250 scientific papers to your name in reputed journals. You have written more than 50 books in Marathi and English, and you're a prolific orator. And I have heard so many of your talks, and they are not just inspiring; they change you. And I am hoping that's what we are going to hear from you today. You're a role model to many medical students. You've been awarded the Dr. B.C. Roy National Award in the year 2005 for medical excellence in development of a super specialty. You've established the liver transplant unit in KEM, setting up a medical simulation laboratory, a virtual classroom, research laboratory, and schools for autistic children in TNMC and in the D.Y. Patil University, acquiring ISO and NAC accreditations. You have established the RT-PCR lab and new OPD building. So many more achievements to your name. Of course, the government of Maharashtra has authorized you to operate at civil and sub-district hospitals in Alibag, Shahpur. You have spent your weekends actually doing these surgeries. They're free of cost. We know that, and You've been appointed as the chairperson of Chief Minister's Medical Relief Fund from 2017 to 19. In 2020, you were appointed as the chief of the task force for Maharashtra. Everyone knows to combat the coronavirus, the pandemic, and you've also participated in the national protocol design team. Uh, that's really your formal introduction, but to us, to many of us, you've been a mentor, you have been a fatherly, brotherly figure to us, and you continue to support many out there. So, any amount of introduction for you will be less. But I'm sure your mentor is here today. So, she will want to say a few words and allow me to give her introduction as she is the chief guest of today's function, Dr. Snehalata Deshmukh, madam. Um, Please bear with me for a second. Professor and Dr. Snehalata Deshmukh, madam, a lot of us in the fraternity have known her as a mentor, as so many have looked up to her. So many women doctors have obviously looked up to her. She really needs no introduction, as I say here. She completed her MBBS. She did surgery in the days when women hardly, she was probably the first surgeons in her days. And she really, she was like the lamp, leading all of us after her in the healthcare sector. And she served the neonatal department of KM Hospital for close to now more than 4 decades of her practice. She was appointed as a dean at the Sion Hospital. She established the pediatric surgery department. She worked relentlessly for the children in the slum areas of Dharavi. And of course, some no one could imagine, and she did it. She was vice chancellor of Mumbai University from 1995 to 2000. Her mother actually supported her throughout the journey, and uh, great so that her legacy continues as her granddaughter. So, who is now already a surgeon and practices at the KEM hospital, is what I learned the other day. So it's a proud privilege to have you, Dr. Snehalata Deshmukh Fellow. And I would want you to say few words about Dr. Sanjay Oak before we actually present him the award.
Thank you, Rajeshri. Words fall short before introducing Sanjay Oak, who is not only a very renowned surgeon and able administrator, but to me, he is a mentor to all the students of medicine. Not only students of surgery, but the students of medicine. Anytime you go to him, he has a solution ready, absolutely, for you. Any problem at any stage, he will solve. And time is no harm to him. Even at 11 o'clock at night, I have been asking his advice in the recent pandemic of corona. And he will always give me a solution. Not only a solution as to what drugs should be given, what should be the treatment, but the solution is that he will say that, can I talk to the physician who is treating him? And that is something which is great. He may not know the physician, but he offered that to talk to him at 11 o'clock at night. So this is a very humane aspect of Sanjay. Whenever I meet Sanjay, I always remember Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Kimakurvata Sanjay. Anytime, anywhere, he will come to the rescue of the patients. I have seen him working very hard when his father was ill. He even cleaned everything when his father didn't have control. I have never seen such a person so much attached to the father. And for his family, he does everything. Whatever is necessary, he contributes to his family. I won't talk about his surgical skills. His surgical skills are very well known. He's a prolific writer. It is not only in Marathi, but in English. Of course, the latest book which I have read is in Marathi only. Its name is Madivarcha Baal.
Madivarcha Baal.
Madivarcha Baal. It is a lovely thought process as to what the Baal feels about life. And his articles in Lok Satta I used to read, and whenever I liked that article, I used to phone him. He is a wonderful human being, very humane, at the same time, very straightforward. If he doesn't like something, he will straight away say that I have not liked. I think this much introduction is good enough since you are short of time.
No, you're absolutely not short of time for all these great words, for a great person like him. स्वतःला झोकून द्यायचं for the public good and medicine is what Dr. Oak is personified, emotions personified, and that's why like to get our generation, one of our generation doctors to come and talk about him, and that's Dr. Sameep Sohani. He pretty much works, sees him day in day out, and Dr. Sameep, if you could share some of your thoughts, that's very very. We would like to hear those.
Thank you, Rajashri, for inviting me for this very prestigious moment. And Oak sir is with us since almost last 2 years. And he joined us when the COVID first and a second, in between the first and the second wave, Kaushalya Hospital was a complete COVID hospital called as a dedicated COVID hospital. And we had started renovation work of our hospital as well as extension, and the work was completely shut for almost 8 months. And in this dire situation, Oak sir has joined us, and today I can proudly tell you that under his guidance, we are able to successfully complete the most of the, apart from some technical formalities, and we are ready with the entire hospital, with the new wing as well as the renovated wing. And I got to work with Oak sir since last 2 years, and I observe him in very minute detail, because whatever he does has got certain logic. Whatever he says, there is some thought process behind it. And it is the skills in various aspects. I have seen him come to Kaushalya at morning 6 a.m., do pediatric operations, go back to Sion Hospital, do a long list over there, come back to Kaushalya, then do the administration work. We do a lot of brainstorming for the new ideas which come. Then again see the OPD patients for pediatric surgery. And gradually, I can say that people from Thane, Mulund area, as well as Shahpur and nearby, they all have come to know that Oak Sir is there in Kaushalya Hospital, and a huge number of patients are coming for pediatric surgery, and a lot of good work is being done at Kaushalya Hospital under his guidance. So, day in and day out, I think I was always a student of Sir. I am from KEM Hospital, but I continue to learn from him every day, and so is all the staff of Kaushalya Hospital. So I think we are grateful that Sir is there with us to not only to guide Kaushalya Hospital but to teach us as well.
Well, so I think let's take the opportunity to felicitate him with this RSG Wisdom and Excellence Award. Um, unless I think we should probably do the other way around. I feel this time we listen to him first and then present him the award, because I think we all are impatient to first listen to him.
Rajesh,
So, yes.
Rajesh, if I could just say two sentences. Okay?
Sure.
I would like to applaud Sanjay for the two wars that he waged in the healthcare sector. One is that he had taken up this whole, he was heading the committee for against unlawful abortions. You know, when the whole MTP Act had come, was under the scan. I think that was a brilliant work that he did. And the second, of course, we all know as leading the task force in COVID, which is you know, it was a daily changing scenario, and the task force had their work cut out for them because the directives had to be followed by so many, you know, healthcare facilities, hospitals, and things like that. So, Sanjay, congratulations and thank you for that sort of work that you did. Thank you, Rajesh.
Would Dr. Puraskar or Dr. Poddar want to say anything? I mean, unless
you know, I really I'm amazed with this man. His relentless energy, and pardon, because I'm known to talk very frankly, particularly against the regulatory bodies, and I'm totally cheesed with WHO, BMC, ICMR. They issue contradictory directives on a daily basis. It is impossible for people who are dealing with me like a end stage people who are trying to follow the guidelines. So I normally tell all my residents, do not follow any guidelines. Only follow Dr. Boraskar's guidelines, because I am the boss. I'm the person who's going to kick you on your backside if you don't follow my common sense medicine. And ultimately, we have got so far treated 3,500 COVID patients in Raja Hospital and lost only 11 patients. That is Dr. Boraskar's common sense medicine. If I had to follow the guidelines of quarantine, guidelines of drug therapy, every alternate day they are bringing new drugs. Ultimately, I do not give drugs unless the patient is sick and unless the patient needs ICCU. I do not give them these high-end drugs. Now see, for a person like Sanjay, I don't know how he had kept his cool when he's dealing with these bloody idiots, and how he could keep his face smiling and would not get aggressive. Not even once I found him aggressive or giving any statement in the papers that this is not done. You see, hats off to his patience and perseverance. Sanjay, hats off, really. I really admire you, but this is something fantastic. This is what I would like to say.
Sure. So I think we will invite him to speak now. And I'm sure, like Dr. Bhatkande Madam said, that these couple of wars that he has actually gone through. But more than that, since you wanted me to put questions at you, I would first like to, not everyone knows you for your contribution during COVID, but I would like to draw everyone's attention to the fact that to being a pediatric surgeon and your journey as a pediatric surgeon and excelling in it. Who has really inspired you through this journey? And it's obviously a successful journey while you reached excellence here. So, who really inspired you into this? And do tell us more about this journey of yours, because we know you have been doing exceptional surgery work, newer technologies, and at the same time, you have done so much of free work for so many people.
Thanks, Rajeshri, for inviting me. Actually, pardon me if my voice breaks because I've become a little emotional. I'm at Pune in my Pune residence.
Yes.
And one reason for being emotional is your father. He was very, very close to me, like Dr. Buraskar sir said. And then listening to all these respected senior giants who appreciate whatever little I have done, that has made me a little emotional. Why did I take pediatric surgery? A precursor to that question is, why did I do surgery? I was a student of Government Medical College, Meerut, and I had an illustrious undergraduate career because I stood first in all subjects in all the 3 years in university. And I wanted to do medicine, but it was my late father who had a passion to become surgeon. He was not even a doctor, but he was so passionate about surgery that the year when I was born, 1959, my father, who was then about 31, 32 years, had bought a small book from a roadside footpath vendor on Churchgate Station. And that book was Understanding Surgery. And he had written on the first page, for Sanjay, for the day when he becomes one. So he was so passionate that I used to act well in Marathi drama theater. So one day he fired me and said, I want you to work in a different kind of theater. I still remember his statement. And then when it was a choice after internship of choosing a postgraduate career, he said, nothing doing, you have to be a surgeon. So I became a general surgeon first. And then my further path, not only the pediatric surgery, but the subsequent career was because of my madam, that is Deshmukh madam. She's more than a madam to me. She's like my mother. Even when I sit now in the home, I can actually show you, there is a photograph of my mother and madam standing together. Just hold on. Let me show you that photograph. Just hold on. So all of you can see, this is my mother and Deshmukh madam when madam had come my home. Rajeshri, it is great teachers who make the students' lives. A good teacher teaches, a great teacher inspires. Madam influenced my surgical skills, but much more than that, I think she introduced me to myself. After passing MCH from Bombay University, I had an option of settling down in Pune, and Madam had helped me getting a prestigious attachment at Jahangir as well as at Rupi, both very prominent hospitals. But I distinctly remember the travel together that me and Madam had taken at Indrayani Express in the evening. And Madam explained to me of if I become a private practitioner, perhaps I would earn money. If I stick to academic life, I think it is the teacher in me who would prosper more and would help several other students. That's the reason I continued in full-time job. Madam sent me abroad. I have been to both the prestigious institutes at Liverpool and then at Johns Hopkins. And both places, the bosses asked me if I could stay back forever. But I was so committed to my own nation that even till today, I have not repented even one day that I came back. Not only the growth as a pediatric surgeon, but then subsequently the administration also. What I've done, I have just followed madam. So I think मी असं गमतीने म्हणतो की चांगला गुरु योग्य वेळेला मिळणं हे खूप भाग्याचं लक्षण आहे. हल्ली अशी अवस्था आली आहे की चांगले विद्यार्थी मिळणं हे गुरुच्या भाग्याचं लक्षण झालेलं आहे. After madam, when it came 1999, madam by then was the VC. I tried my hand with laparoscopy. And there, I think Dr. Tempton Udwadia and Dr. C. Palanivelu from Coimbatore, they gave an idea that yes, laparoscopy in children is possible. And we then took it ahead. So to cut it short, I think it was my teachers, my peers, at times even my postgraduate students who said, sir, there is a new thought on this. And the most important, my patients who made me work as a good surgeon.
So, of course, the second role which you very, very successfully played, there are hardly any administrators like you. I mean, an astute administrator, you've been at so many hospitals and so many, the two major municipal hospitals, and also as the vice chancellor. You know how much, because I know, and you just showed it to us that you're such an emotional person. But how much does that EQ with the IQ? How is it really? What does it mean to you? I mean, do those emotions and values, have they actually made you a successful administrator?
I think definitely, undoubtedly, yes. Emotions are integral component of a surgeon as well as of a good administrator. Unless and until your heart beats for others, you cannot see an unshed tear from your patient's or your peer's eyes. You cannot hear an unuttered sigh. And for that reason, you must be empathetic and you must try to put yourself in the patient's or their relatives' shoes. Quite again, I remember my years in our hospital, we had a Wilms tumor in its last stage patient. We could not operate him. He was on chemotherapy. And we knew that one day he won't be there. So while taking rounds, while explaining things to his father, I had tears in my eyes. And my residents looked at me with surprise and they asked me that, sir, tears? And I told them, and I repeat that sentence, is that tears is not a weakness of a clinician. Tears are a surgeon's strength. And then you can perform much better because then the battle against cancer, and that is true with me even till today. Last week, I did a stage 3 Wilms in Kaushalya, poor family coming from Shahapur. And Rajeshri, nothing stops me. I need to raise money for that patient. I can easily raise. This is a wonderful city where if I make 3 or 4 phone calls, there are people who know that I'm not asking for myself. So they will send money. I think this strength comes when you start thinking emotionally for the patient. Same is true with administration. You must know the intentions, the purpose, the pain of the person standing opposite your chair. The chair is just a medium. At all 4 places, I worked for approximately 4 years because I believed that you must leave that place when everyone is asking you, why are you going? Rather than, why are you here? And I followed that particular thing. I believe in nurturing my juniors, just as you heard from Samip. I've told both Amol and Samip that I'm not going to be here all throughout, but I want the hospital to be made because it's a commitment made to Dr. Harikant Bhanushali that we will put this hospital in a better state. And I'm sure to see that both of them are shaping very well as administrators. My madam shaped me. It is my turn to shape in my colleagues and my students. So emotions have to be an integral part of an administrator. I'll just quote a small story. I was the director of KEM and came a lady. Her husband was suffering from Guillain-Barré syndrome and immunoglobulins had to be given. And for an adult, the immunoglobulin therapy run to the tune of almost about 3.5 to 4 lakhs. So he was a lady standing in front of the dean with her fist closed. She opened the fist and I saw her Mangal Sutra. And she said, "Sir, this is the only thing that is left over. And it is finally for him only. So please take this, encash the amount, but save my husband." And when this happened, I said that let that feast be always closed. And I'll see to it that the place for that Mangal Sutra is your neck and not your fist. And I was happy that I could use the Poor Box Charity Fund of KM Hospital. And that gentleman walked home. So instances like this give or stem out of emotions of an administrator. If there is an administrator who is emotionless, he becomes a tyrant. There is no point having a dean or a director who wants to listen to only his voice. In fact, he should speak less and listen more to the others.
I think this was the reason why the God sent message came to Dr. Snehlata Deshmukh to you, through her words saying that, not to do private practice, but to be in public service. What you have achieved on this front and the way you're sought after by so many institutions.
Rajashri, let me just interrupt you. Pardon me. I have been singularly fortunate. I think not only madam, but even the God's blessings, that in my lifetime, I could play a role in both public as well as in private sector for the last 10 years. After I left MCGM, I'm in private sector and I'm at the topmost positions. And I can tell you that I can say it with conviction that there are good people on both sides of the line. There are excellent people in public sector. There are excellent people in private sector. What you need is to bring the best of them and make them believe each other. See, 75 years since independence, we have built walls and trenches between public and private health sector.
Yeah.
It was only last 2 years of COVID that public and private sector worked together shoulder to shoulder. And that is why we could at least compromise. That is why we could at least save our state from dastardly designs. I think I was fortunate and it was madam's blessings.
And we have to start recognizing that all of these are institutions in itself and not private or public really. And of course, I would, because Dr. Sameep is here also, came basically the Kaushalya Medical Foundation Trust is one example of what you mentioned right here. But also, some of us here know that, a teacher and a mentor that you have been, and you have been a fatherly figure for many students out there. You've been a spine support almost for people who have not been affluent, people who don't have opportunities. If you would like to share any of your any specific story out there.
I'll not take the name, but I had a student when I was the dean of Nair. He was in second MBBS, and his father was admitted in the hospital with a coronary issue, and unfortunately we lost him. He was in his second year. He had a hand-to-mouth existence. Father's pension had not started. It takes time. So he had no food. One day at about 8 o'clock in my dean's office, I found a small note slid under the door of the dean's cabin. The note was written by another boy, his friend. And he has said, "Sir, he's unable to eat twice every day. Can you help him?" Very easy for me. I called my canteen manager and I told him for 6 months, you will give him his dinner and lunch and not ask for money. Either I will give it from the college or I'll get from my personal things, but you will not ask for it. The boy continued. One girl student made a fun of him. Ki tu fukatcha daba khatos वगैरे वगैरे. I called that girl and very jokingly I asked, घेतेस का त्याची उर्वरित आयुष्याची जबाबदारी त्याला दोन्ही वेळेला जेवायला घालण्याची? And she understood the message. This boy came back to me after 4 months and said, sir, वडिलांचं पेन्शन आता सुरू झालंय. आता नको सर, मी पैसे देऊन जेवीन. So that honesty he had. This boy stood first in surgery in MBBS, stood first in MS in general surgery, did DNB in surgical oncology from one of the prestigious institutes from South India, did fellowships in Tata Hospital. And today he's a budding oncosurgeon in Mumbai. Things like this. There are so many students. But again, Rajeshri, I have learned this from my teachers. In first MBBS, I had a teacher called Dr. Jahagirdar. He's no more now. He loved me like this. Madam Deshmukh, it is not only me. Madam Deshmukh remembers every student, their wives, their children's name, what they are doing for almost over 30-35 years. This is fantastic. This kind of relationship I also have with Dr. Tempton Udwadia. Now see, I was never a direct student of JJ Hospitals. I never worked directly with him. पण सर्जरीमध्ये बऱ्याच काही गोष्टी एकलव्य द्रोणाचार्यांकडनं शिकत जातात. आणि हे असे द्रोणाचार्य आधीच्या पिढीमध्ये आम्ही बघितलेले आहेत की ज्यांनी एकलव्यांच्याकडनं कधीही अंगठे मागितले नाहीत. पण त्यांना एकलव्याच्या धनुर्विद्येचा विलक्षण अभिमान आहे. In the book that I have written, I have narrated an incident about Dr. Udwadia. I was a professor of Nair, and we had started doing thoracoscopies in children, almost unheard of anywhere. So सरांचा मला फोन आला, संजय मला बघायचंय तुम्ही काय करताय, पण मला फक्त अर्धा तास आहे उद्या. I said, sir, please do come. सर आले, 8:30च्या ठोक्याला थिएटर सुरू झालं. 11:30-12 वाजले तरी सर उभे आहेत. मी म्हटलं, सर तुम्हाला जायचं होतं ना? Any problem, Sanjay? I said, नाही सर, तुम्हाला जायचं होतं म्हणून विचारतोय. And while leaving, he told it to my residents that, boys, you don't know how fortunate you are with your boss and with your department. You will remember this in your subsequent lives. How true and prophetic sir's words were. Today, each one of that group students is heading a department and doing extensive minimal access surgical work either in India or overseas. असे इन्सिडेन्सेस घडतात आणि आय थिंक त्याच्यामुळे करिअर होत राहतं.
Now that you spoke about the book, I mean, that is another big facet of yours where you have written so much. Your father named you Sanjay, which in itself means victorious, and he wanted you to be a surgeon. What really inspired you to write so many books? Was it to reach all this knowledge and experience to patients, but also to the rural areas, to people where people don't have access to this kind of knowledge and experience? Was it that, or was it more than that? And we would like to know about at least a couple of your books.
I think I inherited writing from my mother, who is a prolific Marathi scholastic books author. She was associated with the famous Navneet Prakashan for 53 years. So I think I inherited from that, but I developed my own style. Initially, I completed a series in Lok Satta, which was half left when our beloved Dean, Dr. Dahanukar, suddenly passed away. But then Kumar Ketkar, who was then the dean, who was then the chief editor of Lok Satta, asked me, will you complete this? He liked my writing. And then I continued. So till today, Rajashri, I have finished 53 books. The last one, obviously, which is printed, is Zagne Surgery Palikadse. This is a biography that was written by Udwadia sir and released in December 2022. 21. I read it And I felt that this must reach my residents, and this must reach millions of Marathi people who have been SIRS patients and common Marathi people to understand what it makes in the life to become a surgeon. There's a wonderful chapter that Sir had written. त्याचं नाव आहे मेकिंग ऑफ अ सर्जन. एखादी व्यक्ती सर्जन बनताना कोणत्या अनुभवांमधनं जाते, कोणते टक्के टोणपे सहन करते, हे सरांनी लिहिले, स्वतःच्या अनुभवांमधनं लिहिले. मला अनेकदा मोह झाला होता की मी त्याच्यावरती माझी टिप्पण्या ऍड करावीत, पण मी ते केलं नाही, बिकॉज इट इज सर्स बुक. आणि म्हणून आय हॅव स्टक लिटरली वर्ड टू वर्ड टू व्हॉट एव्हर डॉक्टर तेमटन उदवाडिया हॅज इट. बट आय थिंक इट इज वन ऑफ द बुक्स विच इज क्लोज टू माय हार्ट. पुस्तक जेव्हा सरांनी बघितलं, सर इन इज ओन स्टाईल, आम्ही घरात बसलो होतो, मी, सरांचा दुसरा लाडका विद्यार्थी दीपराज भांडारकर आणि मॅडम होत्या. आणि सर म्हणाले, संजय, दिस इज बेटर दॅन माय इंग्लिश. आता ही अशी दाद मिळणं हे खूप दुर्मिळ आहे. आणि मी पुन्हा तुला सांगतो की मॅडम देशमुख ओपनली एक वाक्य म्हणतात जे मी त्यांच्याकडनं ऐकलं, मला अभिमान वाटला. आणि आज ते मी माझ्या विद्यार्थ्यांबद्दल बोलतो की शिष्यात इच्छेत पराजय. माझा विद्यार्थी माझ्याहून चांगला व्हावा, आणि ते सुख जर मी मॅडमना दिलं असेल तर मला वाटतं विद्यार्थी म्हणून मी योग्य होतो. आणि ते सुख जेव्हा मी माझ्या काही विद्यार्थ्यांबद्दल, काही विद्यार्थी आहेत, रामद्वार आहे, एक नवीन विश्वनाथन म्हणून आहे, अमेरिकेमध्ये ऑस्ट्रेलियामध्ये गेरा म्हणून आहे, तो लीड करतो या ऑस्ट्रेलियामध्ये. हे विद्यार्थी आहेत आणि ह्या विद्यार्थ्यांचा प्रोग्रेस बघितल्यावरती असं वाटतं की सुंदर आहे. डिपार्टमेंट्स पाठीमागे सांभाळणारे आणि वाढवणारे विद्यार्थी आहेत, कलिग्स आहेत. सो आय थिंक देर इज अ लॉट दॅट इज मेकिंग मी हॅपी वेन इट कम्स टू दॅट. तू विचारलंस पुस्तकं का लिहितो. माझा असा समज आहे की अ पेन इज मायटियर दॅन अ सर्जिकल स्काल्पेल. मी आजही वयाच्या 63व्या वर्षी फार फार तर एक 6-7 सर्जरीज रोज करू शकतो. रविवारचे कॅम्प्स जेव्हा करतो तेव्हा आमच्या टीम्स आहेत, आता एक 12-14 सर्जरीज आम्ही फ्री करतो, सगळ्या अगदी आदिवासी पाड्यातल्या लोकांच्या करतो. पण मी जेव्हा एखादं चांगलं आर्टिकल लिहितो तेव्हा ते लोकसत्तेच्या माध्यमामधनं 35 ते 40 हजार लोकांपर्यंत जाऊन पोहोचतं. इतकंच नाही तर आता इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मीडियामुळे अशी गंमत आहे की जपानमधनं मला आदल्या दिवशीच्या मध्यरात्री फोन येतो की फार छान लिहिलेस, आणि दिवस मावळताना मला अमेरिकेतनं फोन येतो की संजय, मला तुझं आर्टिकल आवडलं. सो एखाद्या राष्ट्राच्या, प्रांताच्या, खंडाच्या सीमारेषा ओलांडून जर तुमचे विचार पोचवायचे असतील तर आय थिंक देर इज नथिंग लाईक अ पेन. गेल्या काही वर्षांमध्ये अतिशय उत्कृष्ट अशी मराठी साहित्य निर्मिती काही डॉक्टरांनी केली आहे. आपले अनुभव लिहिलेत, आपल्याला आलेले प्रसंगांमधले अनुभव आहेत, वेगवेगळ्या पेशंटचे अनुभव आहेत, त्यांचे वैयक्तिक विचार आहेत, असंख्य डॉक्टरांनी लिहिले. मला असं वाटतं की ह्यांनी मराठी साहित्य अधिकाधिक समृद्ध होत आहे. अडचण झाली आहे की सध्या वाचणारी मंडळी कमी झाली आहे. म्हणजे माझे विद्यार्थी मला म्हणतात की सर तुम्ही प्लीज सांगा ना समजावून. मराठी घरात वाढणाऱ्या मुलांना सुद्धा चांगलं मराठी बोलता येत नाहीये आणि समजत नाही आणि ते वाचत नाहीये. सो मी याच्याही मधला मार्ग आता काढलाय की ही जवळजवळ सगळी लिहिलेली पुस्तकं आता डिजिटल कन्व्हर्ट करायची, किंवा ह्याच्या पुढच्या काही लिहिताना किंडल बुक्स आणि ई बुक्स ही सायमल्टेनियसली काढायची, असा साधारणतः विचार मी केला आहे. मी सध्या जे नवपुस्तक लिहितोय त्याच्याही बद्दल मी सांगतो. मी भानुशाली सरांचं चरित्र लिहितोय, कारण ह्या एका माणसानं जे आयुष्यात कुठून सुरुवात केली आणि त्यांनी कुठे आणून ठेवलं हे लोकांना कळलं पाहिजे, आमच्या विद्यार्थ्यांना कळलं पाहिजे. अनेकदा काय होतं की स्टुडंट्सना किंवा यंग डॉक्टर्सना आमची मर्सिडीज बेन्स किंवा ऑडी दिसते, पण सरांच्याकडे ही कशी आली. देर आर थिंग्स इन लाईफ विच आर नॉट टू बी बॉट बट विच आर टू बी अर्नड. आणि ह्याच्यासाठी 50, 54, 55 वर्ष खपावी लागतात. त्याच्याशिवाय त्या मटेरियल गोष्टी येत नाहीत. डोंट एक्सपेक्ट इट ऑन द फर्स्ट डे ऑफ युअर प्रॅक्टिस ऑर लाईफ. हा जो मेसेज आहे हा देण्यासाठी मी थोडंफार लिहितो. समाजामध्ये डॉक्टरांच्या बद्दल असलेले विश्वास आणि प्रवाद, म्हणजे कोविडच्या काळामध्ये मला म्हटलं जायचं की सर आता तुम्हाला आम्ही फक्त देव मानतो, आणि मी हात जोडून म्हणायचो की मला देवही मानू नका आणि दानवही मानू नका, आम्ही आहोत तसेच मानव आहोत, हे लक्षात घेऊन तुम्ही आमच्यावरती विश्वास ठेवायला लागा. अँड आय न्यू इट की कोविड बद्दलचं जे मेडिकल फील्ड बद्दल आलेलं जे खूप प्रेम आणि विश्वास आहे, दिस इज गोइंग टू बी व्हेरी शॉर्ट लिव्ड. The day the COVID is over, today you will be surprised. माझ्याबद्दल बोरस्कर सर आता एवढं बोलले, पोद्दार सर बोलले, मॅडम. You will be surprised. Today we are answering and facing public interest litigations. माझ्यावर, शशांक जोशीवर, राहुल पंडितवर, all the task force members are facing PILs and we are fighting it. कारण सोडून नाही देणार कुठली गोष्ट. We did it in the good interest. So असंही समाजामध्ये होतं. I think you have to accept those responsibilities. मी ज्या वेगवेगळ्या विषयांवरची पुस्तकं लिहिलीस, तू म्हणलीस की सर तुम्हाला कुठली आवडतात. असं आहे की शेवटी ती माझी बाळ आहेत, त्यामुळे ती सगळीच मला आवडतात. पण काही पुस्तकं ही लोकसत्तेत छापून न आलेल्या सदरांपासून निर्माण झाली. उदाहरणार्थ मी महाभारत लिहिलंय आणि ते माझं सर्वात आवडतं पुस्तक आहे. कारण त्याच्यासाठी मी महाभारतावरती जे जे छापून आलंय ती सगळी पुस्तकं, ते सगळे ग्रंथ, त्यांचा अभ्यास केला होता. आणि मग मी महाभारतामध्ये वावरलेल्या 18 प्रमुख पात्रांच्या नजरेतून ती गोष्ट लिहिली. म्हणजे गोष्ट तीच आहे जी महाभारतात घडली, पण द्रौपदीला ती कशी भासली, कुंतीला कशी भासली, कर्णाला कशी भासली, विदुराला कशी भासली, हे मला खूप आवडतं जे जे त्या काळी लिहिलं गेलं. आणि काही शिवाय अशी काही वेगवेगळी पुस्तकं आहेत, कॅन्सरवरती लिहिलेली पुस्तकं आहेत. 5 साधारणतः चरित्रात्मक पुस्तकं लिहिली गेली आहेत, तीही माझ्या खूप जवळची आहेत. लिखाणातनं आनंद मिळतो, पैसे नाही मिळत आणि पैशाकडे बघायचंच नाही कधी लिखाणातनं मिळणार आहे. So long as it is being published and it is being read, I think we should write.
So you almost read my mind in asking the questions, I think. म्हणजे तुम्ही भानुशाली सरांबद्दल बोललात आणि तुमचं हे ठाण्यावरचं प्रेम अँड the way you are trying to bring up institutions in Thane and your love for Dr. Bhanushali and love for also my father. If you would like to,
I must talk at this juncture about your father. And if I cry, please don't mind it. My mind goes back to 1996. जसं अनिल बोरास्कर सरांनी कॉन्फरन्सची आठवण दिली, तशीच त्या वर्षी आम्ही असोसिएशन ऑफ सर्जन्स ऑफ इंडिया ASI ची कॉन्फरन्स घेतली होती. ASI कॉन्फरन्स इज लाईक अ जांबोरी. आणि आम्हाला ही कॉन्फरन्स न भूतो न भविष्यात ही अशी करायची होती, कारण आमच्या मॅडम त्याच्या अलीकडच्या वर्षी मुंबई विद्यापीठाच्या कुलगुरू झाल्या होत्या. पण मॅडमच्या सन्मानार्थ ही कॉन्फरन्स होती खरं सांगायचं तर. आणि SNDTचं ग्राउंड घेतलं होतं आणि पैशाला प्रचंड तुटवडा होता. And your father at that time was the marketing chief of USV. आणि वरळीला त्यांचं ऑफिस होतं. सो माझी आणि त्यांची थोडीशी ओळख होती. पण मी त्यांची अपॉइंटमेंट घेऊन मी आणि त्यावेळचे आमचे सायन्सचे डीन डॉक्टर RGP शिरट्टी, गुरु सर आम्ही त्यांना म्हणायचो, मी आणि ते आम्ही दोघही जण बाबांच्या ऑफिसमध्ये गेलो. बाबांच्या मीटिंग्स चालू होत्या आणि आम्हाला बराच वेळ थांबायला लागली. आणि शिरटी वॉज बिकमिंग इम्पेशंट की संजय, आय एम द डीन अँड व्हाय आय एम वेटिंग आउटसाइड ऑफ अ कंपनी. अँड सो आय सेड, सर तुम्ही तुमच्यासाठी नाही थांबलेले, आपण काही चांगल्या उद्देशाने थांबलोय आणि मला माहितीये की गाडगीळ सर जर आपल्याला थांबवत असतील तर त्याच्या मागे काहीतरी कारण असेल. आणि एक्झॅक्टली दिस इज व्हॉट हॅपन. जे बोरास्कर सरांनी, मी आता आकडा नाही सांगणार, पण जे बोरास्कर सरांनी सांगितलं की त्या कॉन्फरन्सची संपूर्ण जबाबदारी USVने उचलली, तेव्हापासून माझं आणि त्यांचं एक वेगळं नातं निर्माण झालं. हाऊ आय वुड डिस्क्राईब युअर फादर? आय थिंक ही वॉज अन एन्सायक्लोपीडिया. ही वॉज अन इन्स्टिट्यूट इन हिमसेल्फ. बेसिकली ही वॉज अ हार्डकोर अकॅडेमिशियन. प्रोफेसर होते ते खरे. ही वॉज अ मर्चंट ऑफ स्टॅटिस्टिक्स बट अ मॅव्हरिक ऑफ मार्केटिंग. मार्केटिंग कसं करायचं, कोणत्या वेगवेगळ्या पद्धतीनं करायचं, खूप गोष्टी मी तुझ्या बाबांच्याकडनं शिकलेलो आहे. आणि आज जर मी एक सक्सेसफुल ऍडमिनिस्ट्रेटर असेल तर ते केवळ एका मुद्द्यानं की आय नेव्हर सेल माय सेल्फ फॉर माय हॉस्पिटल्स बट आय मार्केट माय हॉस्पिटल्स अँड माय सर्व्हिसेस व्हेरी वेल. वेगवेगळ्या पद्धतीनं आपल्या सेवा आपल्या ग्राहकांपर्यंत आणि रुग्णांपर्यंत पोहोचवणं म्हणजे वैद्यकीय क्षेत्रातलं मार्केटिंग आहे. उगाच मोठा बिलबोर्ड लावणं किंवा जाहिराती देणं, दॅट इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड. यू शुड डू युअर वर्क वेल and very softly and subtly talk about yourself and your hospitals. हे मी RS गाडगेळांकडनं शिकलो. त्या USV मधनं निवृत्त झाल्यानंतर एक जर्नल आपण काढलं होतं. त्या जर्नलच्या बाबतीतही माझा आणि त्यांचा सहवास संबंध होता. मी तुमच्या घरी आलेलो, मी तुमच्या घरी येऊन पोहे घेत खाल्लेले आहेत, चहा प्यालोय, ते माझ्या घरी आलेले आहेत. आणि त्यानंतर मधल्या काळामध्ये ऍडमिनिस्ट्रेशन सुरू झाल्यावरती मी बिझी झालो. आणि त्याच्यानंतर मी त्यांना पाहिलं, राजेश्री, यू विल नॉट बिलीव्ह, इज वेन ही वॉज ब्रीदिंग हिज लास्ट एट ज्युपिटर हॉस्पिटल ICU. सकाळी 8-8:30 बाबा गेले होते, घरातलं कोणी नव्हतं तुमचं, बट आय वॉज देअर इन द ICU अँड ही हॅड ब्रीथ हिज लास्ट अँड दे वर टेकिंग ऑफ द IVs अँड एंडोट्रॅकियल्स अँड ऑल दोज थिंग्स. आणि मला भडभडून रडायला आलं. आयुष्यामध्ये अनेक माणसं आपल्या आयुष्यात काय येतात, कशी येतात आणि ती आपल्या आयुष्यावरती कोणता परिणाम साधून जातात, याला आय थिंक नियतीने ह्या गाठी घालून दिलेल्या असतात. तसं माझी गाठ RS गाडगेळांच्या बरोबरची होती. भानुशाली सरांच्या बाबतीत माझा आणि त्यांचा परिचय झाला तो मॅडमच्या थ्रू. 1986 साली मी KM रुग्णालयाला जॉईन झालो, तेव्हा भानुशाली सर मॅडमच्याकडे यायचे. वेगवेगळ्या असोसिएशनच्या मीटिंग्स मॅडमच्या ऑफिसात चालायच्या. आणि एक 5 फूट 2 इंच उंच, गोरापान रंग, सुंदर कांती, अत्यंत बोलके डळे, मोहक हसू असलेले असे हे सर्जन. आणि एक दिवशी मॅडमनीच माझी आणि त्यांची गाठभेट घालून दिली आणि मॅडम म्हणाल्या, संजय, हा आमचा हरिभाऊ. सरांना हरिभाऊ म्हणणाऱ्या व्यक्ती आता फार थोड्या आहेत. मॅडम आहेत, डॉक्टर तेमटन उदवाडी आहेत, अनेस्थेसिस कृष्ण जोशी आहेत. तर तेव्हापासून माझी आणि त्यांची ओळख झाली. पण तुला एक सांगू का, की ऍज अ गुड सर्जन, it is not uncommon that you will refer your patients to a good surgeon. But who is a greater surgeon? When you submit your own relatives, your kith and kin, and yourself to that surgeon, is the best possible. He is the greatest surgeon. Dr. Harikant Bhanushali has been my family surgeon. He has operated my wife, my mother-in-law, my father, myself twice. आणि ह्याच्यात केवळ सर्जिकल स्किल्स नव्हती, तर एखाद्या रुग्णाकडे अप्रोच कसा असला पाहिजे हे मी खूप सरांच्याकडनं शिकलो. तदनंतर ASI कॉन्फरन्स होती, मराठी विज्ञान परिषदेचं काम होतं, असंख्य गोष्टींमध्ये मी आणि सर बरोबर होतो. आणि ज्या वेळेला मी माझ्या कोविड नंतर एक मेजर निर्णय घेतला की काम थोडंसं आता कमी करायचं आणि जवळच घराचं काम करायचं, तेव्हा मी सरांच्याकडे गेलो आणि म्हणालो, हे पैसे बिसे तुम्हाला काय द्यायचे ते द्या, पण मी उद्यापासून कामाला येणार. सर त्यांच्या नेहमीच्या स्टाईलनं, ज्यांना सर माहिती आहे त्यांना त्यांची स्टाईल माहिती आहे, दोन्ही हात असे करून म्हणाले, किती छान, ये की उद्यापासून. दॅट इज हाऊ द वर्क स्टार्टेड. कुठलं कॉन्ट्रॅक्ट नाही, काही नाही, काही सुद्धा नाही. पण समीप म्हणला ते खरं आहे की जे हॉस्पिटलचा प्रोजेक्ट 8 महिन्यापासून रेंगाळला होता, तो आम्ही सगळ्यांनी मिळून गेल्या 1 वर्षभरामध्ये पूर्ण केलाय. ह्या काळामध्ये मला सरांच्याकडनं कधीही तो अमुक एक गोष्ट अशी कर, अमुक एक निर्णय तू तसा घे, कधीही नाही. सरच नाही, कोणाच्याच कडनं नाही. इव्हन सिनियर डॉक्टर सोनी नाहीत, कोणी नाही. कम्प्लीट फ्री हँड. मला खरा आनंद कधी झाला माहितीये, थिएटरमध्ये आम्ही जेव्हा कपडे काढून ठेवतो तेव्हा आमची छोटी छोटी कॅबिनेट्स असतात आणि त्यांच्यावर नावं असतात. मला जे कॅबिनेट देण्यात आलं त्याच्यात वरती नाव आहे डॉक्टर HS भानुशाली आणि त्याच कॅबिनेट वरती खाली पट्टी लावली होती डॉक्टर संजय ओक. खूप न बोलता मिळालेला तो एक मान होता. आणि सरांनी मला फक्त एक गोष्ट सांगितली कौशल्याबद्दल. कौशल्य हे मिडल क्लास लोकांच्यासाठी निर्माण केलेलं हॉस्पिटल आहे. तू इथं काहीही कर, तू लिव्हर ट्रान्सप्लांट घडवून आण, पेशंट पिडियाट्रिक कर, काही कर, पण मध्यम वर्गासाठी आहे आणि पैशासाठी कधीही कोणाला नाडू नका. हा संदेश अनेक वर्षांपासून मॅडम देत आल्यात. हाच संदेश माझ्या इतर गुरुवर्यांनी दिला. अँड आय थिंक दॅट इज द वे टू गो अहेड. When I close my monologue, I will just refer to 4 sentences which I read today. And it says, look back and get the experience. Look forward and get the hope. Look around and get the reality. And look within and find yourself. That is what I am doing, Rajeshri.
Well, I have no words. For me, this is more than what I could have asked for. And your tears are basically the reflection of what's going on in my mind and in my heart. So I am privileged and
Rajeshri, can I say one word about this? First of all, I am extremely embarrassed that you have invited me when you had called such vibhutis, and I'm really embarrassed to be amongst Sanjay Oak and all these people. And second thing I have to tell you, it reminds me of one great saying by my mentor and guide and guru, Dr. B.S. Reja. And it's so very aptly come in the talk of Sanjay that when your intentions are noble in a surgery, and if you even commit a blunder, the God take you out of that. But your intentions have to be noble. And this is one thing I feel every inch of Dr. Sanjay Oak. He is a very noble person. And really hats off to you, Sanjay. And one thing I will request you truly that please don't address me as sir. I feel so ashamed that a person of your stature calls me sir just because of my gray hair. We should address you as sir, and a great learning experience from your talk. Thank you very much.
मी याच्यावर एकच गोष्ट म्हणेन की डॉक्टर पुरस्करांचा खूप मोठेपणा आहे. Because I have seen him through years together, and he is so modest when he says all this. And I don't know how he can say all this, but he's a great person. He's a great doctor. Everyone knows that, and he can just come and say all this. Because someone should refute what he's saying. Kaka, this is not true about you at all. Well, I think we will just bring the award up, and I will of course come and present the award to you in person, Dr. Sanjay. I am happy on one hand to see those tears in your eyes, because this is what the RSG Wisdom and Excellence Award is about. It's bringing all the excellence, wisdom, and emotions together. And I think this is what really completes it.